All right, guys. So by now we hopefully have all seen the video on the whole school closure thing. If you haven't, then check it out. It's going to be posted on our Google Classroom. But for this week, guys, we're going to talk about kind of where AgMech, the construction and building side of things, meets the practical use of that skill within the parameters of agriculture. So a lot of the things that we do, be it trailers or implements, things like that we build, it's very obvious that it's for ag, right? But some things, we just think of it as, we're just building stuff. We're having a good time, we're making some stuff and, enjoying life. Well, one of the things that we're going to use a little bit of our ag mechanics knowledge and a little bit of our, principles and whatnot knowledge is to plan out and execute a garden. So here at the house, used to be I didn't have a whole lot of sunlight, so that wasn't an option. But I had a guy come and take a bunch of trees out, and he did that I think last summer. And whenever he did that, it gave me a little bit of sunlight back here that I very much needed. And I've actually got some grass and stuff growing now, so I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to be putting a garden right over here. Now, I just cleaned my yard up last weekend. And today a storm came through. Last night a storm came through, blew a bunch more limbs down. So I don't have a clean yard anymore. But I did-ish, except for my burn piles. But I'm going to take my garden and I'm going to put a garden right here on that little space in front of the burn pile. Okay? So I'm going to drop some dimensions and stuff down on Google Classroom for the assignments and whatnot, so that you can complete those. But what you need to know is, just because we're doing something agricultural, even though it might tie in to multiple aspects of ag, doesn't mean that we're not going to be using skills or knowledge gained in other areas. Guys, I can't stress enough that, a little bit of English, learn how to speak correctly, a little bit of math, a little bit of history so that you can know where you came from. Government economics is there so that we can understand how our systems work. Government's there to let you know how our government works. And that's all important information for you, especially if you want to affect change. Just as economics is going to teach you a little bit about how economics works, how trade and how money and how commerce really works. A class like that, when taught, correctly, should give you a very, very firm understanding of those things, of how trade, how buying things, how capitalism, basically how everything affects everything as far as, the stuff we want, the stuff somebody else has, and what we have for that person. It's all about trade, and a lot of times we're trading dollars for things, right? But sometimes we're trading goods and services for those things as well. But I say that all to tell you that we're going to get a little bit mathy today, okay? Not a whole lot, don't freak out, just a little bit. So when we're talking about a garden, guys, one of the things I'm going to do actually is I'm going to be building a raised bed garden, okay, for this exercise. And, raised beds can be done in all sorts of different sizes and shapes and stuff like that. Most of the time when somebody's building a raised bed for them to plant stuff in, it's a smaller area, maybe 2 or 3 feet wide and, 4, 5, 6 feet long. But for this exercise, we're going to say that I'm going to build a bigger one, okay? Whether it's a raised bed or not, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to do it. Probably not, just because I don't want to have to go and buy things like the landscaping timbers and stuff, but I'm still not 100% sure. So that being said, we're going to plant a garden. This garden's going to provide me with stuff that I like to cook with, vegetable wise, and it's going to provide our friend Mr. Bacon with lots of food that he likes. And that's one of the biggest motivators for me is, guys, that dude loves him some lettuce, some celery. He loves vegetables, okay, except for broccoli. He liked it at first, and now he's not a big fan, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But we're gonna plant Bacon lots of vegetables. I'm also gonna plant some stuff just for me to make some salsa. I make salsa every year, and it's pretty good. And once I give it to a couple of the teachers, they'll be after me for a little while to get them some more, so on and so forth. So now our garden, as we're going to talk about it, is going to be a raised bed. So whenever we're talking about a raised bed, that's going to basically create 4 walls that we're building, right? But for it to be a raised bed, the dirt is going to have to be all the way at the level of the top of that wall, right? So we're going to have to get us some more dirt. Soil is the word that people like you to use to describe dirt, but most of you guys are going to use dirt, so we're going to use dirt. So I'm going to need to fill that box with some soil. And I said I was using dirt, so dirt. So we're going to fill that box up with some dirt. And when we do so, we're going to have to calculate the volume of that box to be able to do that, right? Now, I wanted to cover a couple different things here. Now, volume, guys, hopefully you remember this, but in case you don't, it's calculated by multiplying the length times the width times the height, okay? And that's going to give you your volume. So that is to say, if we had a box that was 2 feet wide, 2 feet long, and 1 foot tall, we would do that math, and we would figure out, okay, 2 times 2 is 4, times 1 is still 4. So I need 4 cubic feet. Remember, if you're going to be if you're going to be doing volumetric math, it's got to be feet times feet times feet, or inches times inches times inches. You can't do like 2 feet times 2 feet times 6 inches. If you do 2 times 2 times 6, that's going to get you to 24. Okay, that would say it was 24 cubic feet, when in all actuality, you should be doing 2 times 2 times 0.5, because 6 inches is half of a foot. So if we did that, 2 times 2 is 4 divided by 2, which is the same as multiplying it by 0.5, it's going to be 1. So you can see how you'd be way off there if you didn't keep your units the same. So make sure that you don't make that mistake. Now, we also need to talk a little bit about area, okay? Area is another simple one, guys. I know that I'm not asking you to reach way back in the memory banks here, but area is relevant to us because all of the different vegetables and crops that we may grow are all going to have an individual requirement for how much space they need to grow, how far they need to be from any other plants, so that they get the right kind of nutrients from the soil. There's only so much to go around, and that information is typically available with whatever kind of plant that you're going to plant, as far as how close they can be put to other ones. Again, more of an issue for us right now because we're talking about vegetables, guys. When you're talking about food, nutrients that they get from the soil directly affect how they grow, how well they grow, and the fruit that they bear. And yes, that would be a good statement even for vegetables, even though we said fruit. So whenever they have to work really hard and can barely get enough nutrients just for just to sustain, they're not going to be able to afford to spend much energy on growing the stuff that you want, like the fruit or vegetable, okay? Because most of those fruits and vegetables that we like, guys, aren't the main plant, with the exception of some like lettuce and cabbage and spinach and stuff like that. Those are the leaves of the main plant. But In most cases, that's not the case. You've got some kind of plant, watermelons and strawberries do the vinish thing, and then you've got, ones like squash and zucchini, eggplants, those types of vegetables. Those all have a main plant that has to grow just so it can produce the fruit, or vegetable in this case, separately. So it's on the same plant, obviously, but it doesn't. That's not the only thing that grows. The fruit's not the only thing that grows. It's got an actual plant body and leaves and stuff, and where the flower is where it's going to grow those, and those are initially intended to help them distribute seeds. Animals come eat, they eat it, they poop the seeds out somewhere, boom, new plants can grow. A little bit of knowledge for you if you didn't know that. But that's how a lot of plants are, and they have kind of evolved that way on purpose. So area is very relevant. So I'm going to be putting up some stuff for you guys, an assignment and an assessment. Both are easy. This one's, I'm not trying to beat you up this week. This is just to get your brain going in a little bit different direction. Okay, so that's about all I have for you on the garden stuff. But if you have any questions, feel free to holler at me. Let me know. Also, if you have any school closure questions, stuff like that, definitely feel free to reach out. Just don't ask me about graduation yet, because I don't know when it's going to be. I do know that they're planning on having it, but I don't know when it's going to be, and I don't know how it's going to be done, because we don't know the way that things are going to be going as far as social distancing and what's required. So any questions, holler at me. Thanks, guys.